Hello, everyone. It's Michael Jacob with Unleashing Intuition Secrets. I'm joined once again by Lewis Herms, Screw Big Gov. Lewis, when was the last time we were together? Back in Cali?
Yeah, I think so. It's been
Been
a
a little
while
bit.
for sure.
Yeah, missed you. So tell us what you've been up to.
Oh wow. That's a long story. I'll make it short. Recently I went down to the border and
Oh,
actually talked to there's over 100 where we were, there's over 100 immigrants that were sleeping on our side of the border. And so the deal is what happens now, and they're all males. 99% of them were males and fighting age males, and from places like Sudan, Chad, things like that. Interesting enough, even one of the guys, which I know you dealt with people like this before, I got enough information on him because he spoke really good English. I said, "Why do you speak such good English?" And he says, "I was actually a translator for the United States military in operations." And I
yeah.
believe he was either Sudan or Chad. You would probably know better than me. Um, Anyways, that's where he was from. But he says he was a translator. And I said, that's very interesting. But the reason why he's over here is because the United States, of course, defaulted on the agreements that they had to give these guys asylum when they do that for us. So he
Yeah.
decided to come over the border. Now, what's interesting is virtually all of these people on the border had nice new shoes, new clothes. They
Hmm.
looked very, very healthy. And we asked them so many questions on how they get here, and the trip is pretty incredible. But they end up getting bussed right to the border. That's the thing that people, and then they just walk over a hill and they're right there. And the coyotes
Wow.
take them there.
So who's paying for them to get here? And do they have like those credit cards and phones and everything?
This is a great question. Yes, they all had phones. Don't know how they got the phones. What they were saying is that they were waiting for 3 days for Border Patrol to pick them up, process us, and then just send us to a city. So they literally just wait there, having a good time camping out. There's Red Cross blankets all over the place, tons of food, water, everything they need. But right across the border, the cartel is right there. In fact, the other one was taking pictures of myself and the crew I was with, and so we started taking pictures of them.
Yeah.
And they're monitoring them because that's their money, and probably until Border Patrol grabs them, they probably don't get paid.
Hmm.
Probably that's a guess of mine. So they make sure. In fact, one of the guys was so bold, he came right across the Mexican border, walked right across, went up and talked to a couple of people in that group, kind of did the finger wagging, right? And then we saw a sniper up on a hill pointing at us, so we decided to get booking. So we took off from there.
Wow. So we've we've heard Mike Adams has had people on that talk that are security on the buses and stuff like that. And they talk about how they have cell phones and they're scheduled to get off at certain places, but they demand to get off somewhere else. And that's probably because they know they're going to a certain location, like maybe New York, but en route, they're going to get off and they're going to do whatever they're supposed to do in these locations. So someone is coordinating this. Someone is paying for these people to be brought there. Someone is paying for them to be, shipped around the United States.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
we're hearing that bus companies are making a fortune right now, and that's being paid for by taxpayers, either in Texas, Arizona, federal government. Seems like the federal government, the Border Patrol, is in on this too, to
They're
me.
complicit. They're totally complicit. We
Wow.
couldn't get a straight answer out of a Border Patrol guy. We ended up secretly filming one guy and got some straight answers. He was actually, ironically, we ended up at night, real late at night, we ended up looking into this whole fenced off barbed wire area, and it's where all the Border Patrol vehicles are parked, right? And we're like, it's packed, but all the vehicles are there, right? So we're taking pictures in this, and one of the guys came up, right? Because he was monitoring the place and walked up. He goes, "Hey, what's up?" We talked to him. And it's pretty cool. And then
Mhm.
finally he says, "Can you turn off your cameras?" And then we got more information out of him. Um, they're not happy. They're just, but here's the frustrating thing. Their mantra is the same. We're just following what we're told. Well, you don't have to follow what we're doing. And he literally said, we're afraid that we're going to lose our pension and lose everything. So I asked the guys, I said, when does it become more important for you
Right.
to stand up and be a whistleblower instead of worrying about taking care of your family right now? Because in the long run, your legacy to be somebody that was a whistleblower and stood up, and for generations are going to tell your story of how amazing great great grandpa was.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to appeal to now, with the sheriffs, with everything. Like I had a very spirited conversation with Sheriff Mack. I didn't know it was being filmed at the time, but that ended up getting out there. And
Mm.
we try to put it out on my channel. Anyways, the whole thing is we the people need to take the accountability now.
Yeah.
When we see something wrong, we need to get in the face of the people that are supposed to be protecting us. And if we don't, they're just going to keep willy-nilly doing whatever they're doing because their excuse is their paycheck.
Yeah. So, because I've been involved in, disclosing quite a bit. Once you're in the mix, I explained this to Tracy earlier today because she asked me, she was kind of upset too why people aren't coming forward and speaking out. And I said, imagine you're in a room and all all the vampires,
Mm-hmm.
and the vampires are gonna they're with dates or whatever, and they're gonna vampire those people. Uh, and that if you speak out,
Mm-hmm.
so you're in this room full of vampires, and you're like, how do I tell? And then maybe you like leave a little piece of paper to somebody, and then somebody that's with a vampire, whether they're married to them or whether they're just recently attached to them for whatever reason, they will fight you because they don't believe that they could be a vampire. They convince them that they're good. So that's a problem that we have, and it's a problem that I encountered when I was trying to reveal stuff. So the best that you can do in an environment like that is, if you are awake, you try and wake other people up so that they can
Mm-hmm.
see the vampires themselves. So that was what I was doing when I was overseas, when I worked for the CIA, and sometimes, in SEAL teams, so forth. But not so much in the SEAL teams, but definitely in the CIA. Some of the, former Special Forces guys that were working as security, it was tough because I would tell them about 9/11, and they didn't want to believe it. So you have to like awaken someone to at least one thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And once they see, oh, if that's corrupt, maybe there's other things corrupt. And then once that happens, then there's enough people around with stakes, hidden
Yes.
stakes. So you're
Yeah.
you're like looking at somebody, and you're like, you want to tell them that they're with a vampire, and you're looking around, is anybody going to back me up? And then somebody like surreptitiously pulls back their jacket, and you see they got a stake, and they're like, okay, I got backup. So that's the kind of the way that I felt when Trump came into office. And I started to see other people revealing. I'm like, if they're revealing, I'm going to reveal too. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how it starts. Someone will reveal, and if they get away with it, then other people will start to reveal. So that's you're saying the right thing. We the people have to give them cover. We have to back them up. We have to like demand. If we demand, they're like, well, they're demanding, then I'm going to reveal. They're going to back
Mm-hmm.
me up, and I'll just reveal, and I'm going to be covered to a certain extent. So even people that are revealing, as we know, get attacked because people don't want to hear it, and people don't want to wake up, and there's all these different levels of awakening process. But yes, it has to come from multiple people starting to awaken, support each other in different ways. So you and I and other people that have been revealing this information, we all get attacked,
Mm-hmm.
in lots of different ways. Um, but we have enough cover. We give each other enough cover, and there's probably spiritual cover that we're getting as well, that allows us to continue this work. So great job going down there, because I went down there to the border and I couldn't see any problems that they were talking about at the
Yeah,
time that I went
it's
down there.
definitely pockets. So what happens, and
Right.
that's a good question, because there are people who gone down the border that said nothing's going on. There's
Yep.
a lot going on, but it's not going on everywhere, because
Mm.
the Trump wall is a pretty effective wall.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, where we were, Michael, they cut out over 10 pieces of the Trump wall in 12-foot sections. And they had a company called Spencer Construction there, and we asked them, why are these cut out? Oh, we're doing irrigation work on the Mexican side, right near the border. Now, okay, so if we really care, right? We cut out one place. We bring the construction crew there. You monitor it and you fix the problem. You don't cut out 10 and leave them there for 3-4 months open.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just ludicrous. So the lies that they're telling us, and the Border Patrol is telling us lies, and it's really disgusting. Do I think there are good Border Patrol. The one guy we interviewed in the deep of night, he claims 99% are good. I'm like, well, I guess my problem, Mike, is are you really good if you just keep going along with the plan? You know what I mean? Somebody's going to have to step up and be courageous, in my opinion.
Yeah. And you know, I saw people stand up and be courageous, and they got sent away and they never worked again, and they lost
Yeah,
that income source. So that is real. So that gave me cover. So some of the people that would normally get me out of there because I'm talking or doing stuff, I got cover from them because I'd kept them alive and they knew that I was doing a good job. That will last you a certain period of time, but not for a long time,
mhm,
unless more people, like I talked about, start to awaken and start to participate. So the participation rate is very important. Now we're seeing it with Jeffrey Epstein. How long did we know that Jeffrey Epstein had, this island and children were going there, Bill
mhm.
Clinton and all these, elites and so forth, were going there, and it was all a big, fantasy island land for them, and they covered each
Right.
other, had judicial people covering for them. Uh, what are your thoughts on that? So
Well,
now,
it's
we've known this for years and years and years. It's been covered. Now there's such a demand from the public to reveal this stuff, because I see people on social media all day long saying, reveal the names, reveal the names, reveal the names. So the,
mhm,
the pressure has been tremendous.
exactly.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think thank you to Elon Musk for that, because that's why the pressure has been tremendous. Whatever anybody thinks about Elon Musk. Now, your audience will understand this next statement. I believe the white hats are completely controlling the narrative, or doing their
The
best.
narrative, and that's beautiful, because a lot of people don't understand that how important, how valuable, how powerful that narrative is. And Trump has done that perfectly for a long time. Go ahead.
Right. So there's my frustration has been, I'll use Steve Bannon as an example. Steve Bannon knows so much more than he's talking about, but he releases it in tidbits. And I believe they're controlled and said, release this now this, now this, now this. Because if what we hear is right, okay, so here, let's talk about Juan 07. Juan said flat out, and I can say this now, he said this like 3 years ago to me, almost 4 years almost. He said the good guys have a technology that is what they call better than a quantum computer, where they run multiple millions of simulations almost per second until they determine what's the best thing for them to do, what's the best action for them to take. Now, my frustration with that would probably be the same as you and Tracy Joe is, well, why do we have a right brain and a pineal gland and have discernment if we're going to let a computer tell us everything that we're going to do, right? That's my concern with that. But that being said, assuming that that's what they use, I think that's a cover, is what he was saying, and it's really Operation or Project Looking Glass. I believe that's probably what they're looking at. So if that's the key, they already know the outcome, and they know the path to get there, which we the people don't know. So they were releasing this here and this here because they think that's going to be the most effective way to get the information out and wake people up. And they may be right. My only concern is when we completely take the human element out of these things and start not giving any accountability to the American people or worldwide, we the people, I think you're going down a slippery slope there. And that's my biggest concern. I believe they should trust us and we the people a little bit more that we can handle this information and discern it. So, but they've got Project Looking Glass, not me. So I don't know.
Yeah. So, look at Alan Dershowitz. He's been to 137 times.
Yeah, he's a
Prince,
total cabal.
yeah. Prince Andrew, 76 times. That's a lot less than 137 times. And then you have Clinton, who's everyone said, yeah, Clinton's been there. Everyone talked about Clinton before they talked to Prince Andrew about,
Oh yeah,
he's
yeah,
been there 73 times. So a few times less than Prince Andrew. So both of those guys, I don't know what's going on with Clinton, but Prince Andrew was basically totally called out. We've been, and calling out Clinton. So people were
I'm
like, "Well, we
breaking
want to
news
see the
on
list." The
Clinton. Yeah,
list we've already been saying who's been going to
yeah.
the island. Nothing's happened because of people like Alan Dershowitz.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we actually have on my news program today, we have breaking news on Bill Clinton and his connection to Epstein and personal involvement that I had. And I think I only told this story once before, and it may even be on your show. Um, so I'll give you a little hint about it. There's a house called what's a house? It's a mansion. It's the biggest mansion in Beverly Hills, and it's called Green Acres, believe it or not.
Hmm.
They named who I don't know if they named it after the show or what. And it was purchased by a guy named Ron Burkle who owned a bunch of grocery stores. Ron Burkle, by the way, now is a major player in Hollywood. Go figure. And after Michael Jackson's passing, he is the one that bought Neverland Ranch. Little interesting information. So I worked for the largest commercial drain cleaning plumbing company in California, and my buddy and I were the two top troubleshooters. We were tasked to go to Burkle's house, right? And we went to Burkle's house, and I've always been kind of a guy that's curious and finding the loopholes, and I was already into conspiracies. So what happened is they wanted us to find every problem we can find in the house so they can reduce they can do a charge back on what they paid for the house, right? That's their goal. So they said, Lewis, find everything you can wrong with the plumbing in this house. Anything else, even electrical. I said, okay, no problem. The first 2 days we had security completely monitoring us. By the way, they had cameras all over the property, cameras in the house. And this is 35 years ago, at least. I think it was a long time ago. Bill Clinton was in office whenever it was. So finally, we convinced the security guy. I said, you know what? I'm just going to call Ron and say you're costing him double because you're up our butt the whole time when we're working, and we can't work. All right. If he doesn't trust us, we don't need to be here. Next thing you know, the security was called off, and they said, go ahead, do whatever you want. Great. So we had full rating of the house. Interesting enough, just like in the movies, they had this beautiful rotunda with this amazing library of books and so on and so forth. It's just beautiful wood. And I see a slit in one of the cabinets. I'm like, that's odd. And I told my buddy, look at this. He goes, that doesn't make sense. What if there's a false door behind there? I go, well, let's check it. So I'm shaking it, and it's a magnet, click, and it opens up. And there's a door behind it. And like the crazy guys we are, we decided to go in there. And it went downstairs. It went in, and there's a huge long hallway of cedar. It's just stank of cedar. It was just very, very strong. And it was the longest hallway I've seen of shelves for shoes. So it was probably to keep the moss off the shoes, right? And then we went in and down farther. It's kind of like a catacomb. And then there was a studio here, and there was a viewing room, like a mini bowling alley. And you go all the way down to the end. And then there's this big, huge steel door with a combination lock on it, which we couldn't get through. Now, what's interesting about this story is later, I just happened to have a client with one of my businesses. This is probably only 5, 8 years ago, right? Somewhere in there, just a few years ago. And I just happened to be telling her this story. And the reason why it's because she was married to somebody her ex-husband was somebody extraordinarily famous, right? And she like turned white. She goes, I was best friends with Ron Burkle's wife. I
Hmm.
said, really? He goes, yeah. And when Bill Clinton was in office, they would hold this huge party there because Burkle was trying to get into Hollywood. They hold this huge party every year. Clinton would go there, and then they would usher the wives out. And they said, you guys need to go, come back in a week or two, right? They would change the Secret Service detail, which you know more about that than I do. I don't know why they would do that. And they stayed there. And then Bill Clinton publicly would tell everybody he's like at Camp David. He stayed there and they ushered all the young girls in after that.
Wow. Hmm.
Now, God just puts me in the weirdest places and I don't know why. And then like this 30 years later, I'm like, oh, that's why it was.
Yeah, so you can reveal, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, it's crazy, crazy. But yeah, I think that's a compelling story. And I got corroboration from somebody also. So it's now we know what was going on there. Now, full disclosure, I didn't have a clue what was going on there then. I'm just like, this is weird. Why would they have tunnels down here? What are they trying to hide? These people are crazy because they had a lot of weird stuff on the property, satanic stuff, anyways. But now we know.
So what time frame was that? What year?
Uh, Let me see. I always have to go back to how old I was. So 30, maybe 32 years ago, I'm guessing.
Holy wow.
Was Clinton in office then? So that would have been 90. Is that around 91 maybe? Was he in office then? Let me check.
Um,
He was in office, that's all I know. I believe. Clinton. Let's see here. Yeah,
yep,
83 to 92. So yeah, it would probably been around 91. So he was in office.
crazy.
Isn't it
So
amazing?
there's this one woman, Maria Farmer, and she has uh a sister, I can't remember her sister's name, but they both were basically were tied up in the Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. She's done paintings of it. I think she lives in New York, and she was disclosing to the FBI, I think all the way back in 2006 or seven or something like that,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they covered it up. So
Yeah.
the FBI and so forth have been covering this stuff up for a long time. So she revealed way, way back.
Oh,
It's
and
been
she had so much details and yeah, I'm glad you
yep.
brought that up because I wanted to ask you. So back then, did they have the pinhole camera technology? Because she said they had pinhole cameras all throughout his house.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh
And I know
yeah,
you
easy,
would use stuff like that.
easy.
And yeah,
Oh, yeah, probably back in the '60s even.
really?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah. The space flights and all that kind of stuff. Their stuff was super high tech all way back then. Who knows? Maybe in even further back. I
Yeah.
wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt
So
it.
it's absolutely they had pinhole cameras and so forth, so they could invest and use that because we know they use that stuff to basically get dirt on politicians and so forth, so they could manipulate them and get what they want from them.
Hmm.
So there's like this facade of good people that are in office, and then they come in and basically manipulate them from behind the scenes, and they do what they want. So that's that that's perfect for them, perfect
Yeah.
cover.
Well, I've been telling everybody that Les Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein could care less about. That's what it was about, is gaining favor with them and getting information on them. And I think people go down the wrong road when they think it's something different because that's all it is. That's what Mossad is about. I mean,
Oh, totally, totally. And the somebody said in the chat, cedar disguises smells. So maybe there was something else they were trying to
oh
disguise there,
yeah, I didn't
as far as
didn't.
like,
It was
they do
he
that would kind of maybe
It
hide that.
smacked us in the face like you could not believe when you went into that area. But
Mm,
that makes sense. And they would disguise it as shoe shelves. Great
right.
information, person in the chat. Thank you. I never thought about that, but that even makes
Janet,
more
yeah,
sense.
very good. So it is you know, it's that's what we do. We're all a big group of people that are like involved in like, you know, disclosing this information. It is very sad to you know, have to do this, but that's I think we're looking at probably a couple generations before this is all done. Now that the deep state apparatus is absolutely being taken down, taken apart, the way they make money and the people that are involved going down the border like you guys did. Uh, you know, I suspected that Border Patrol because I could see those guys come in and like, you know, the National Guard will put up all that concertina wire, and then you get Border Patrol come in and like, you know, press it down so that illegals could come over. I'm like, what the hell? It's like, and that's got to be coming from Greg Abbott. Absolutely coming from the governors. And what are your thoughts on that, or have you heard anything about that?
Well, so I was in Arizona.
Okay.
We're in Sassabee, and it also happens in another place in Arizona too a lot. I can tell you the Border Patrol were miles away. They were nowhere near the fence. They were no near the border. We passed them all hanging out together, right past them to go check out the border. They're not doing anything down there.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. They're getting paid though. Um,
Mm,
but in Texas, I think it's interesting. Greg Abbott is a deep state player, and a lot of people are trying to give him credit right now. And
mm,
here's what's going on.
yep.
What happens is Abbott does nothing until there's so much pressure on him, and he feels like he's going to get just almost taken out by the Texans because they're serious. And then he
Right.
does a decision, he does another decision. I can tell you his last bill that he went through, where he said all the police and sheriffs can now start arresting illegals when they cross the Texas border, right, and deport them. Well, it sounds phenomenal. You go, oh,
Mm,
that's great if you can take care of it. You know what he didn't tell you is it doesn't take effect until March 5th. Therefore, that's a dog whistle saying everybody come in through the Texas borders. We're going to be completely porous. And then after March 5th, we're going to have another place for you to go. Because if they're really serious about it, he could have declared an emergency, state of emergency, and that could have been enacted immediately. But it didn't. So it's a fake thing. So when everybody praises Greg Abbott, I throw up in my mouth a little bit because I know what's really going on
oh yeah.
there.
Yeah.
He's part of the
Good,
operation.
good. We're united in calling him out. And of course, you know, he's just like Brandon. He's just a figurehead. He he doesn't have really any control. They tell him what to say and what to do from his wheelchair. So that's insane to me that he was just running down the street and a tree, you know, fell on him and paralyzed him. It's like, what a great story. It's like that. Remember that one senator that was he's from Nevada, and he was supposedly exercising, and the exercise band broke and hit him in the eye.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, these guys get roughed up if they get out of line.
They
Uh,
do. They do.
we've seen a lot of that, and if they don't toe the line, then they rough them up, maybe paralyze them or whatever. So
They'll
that's
take
what
out a
happened to
family
him.
member in a second. Look what happened to Rathensberger of Georgia. His daughter's boyfriend, they
Right,
blew him up while he was driving to go see her.
right.
Blew him.
Yeah,
And they, of course, the next phone call is that could have been your daughter.
yeah,
And next thing you know, he's like, oh, everything's good. Da
right.
da 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 da. I mean, they play a different game than we play.
Yeah. And now, many years later, we're finding out that they didn't even do uh, uh, another inspection. So they didn't even, none of them. They just said they did, and they
Right.
didn't go back and redo there might have been some people in somewhere where they filmed it, but really, they didn't do it. And they've discovered that and they disclosed it now.
Yep.
So they didn't go back and, recount in a lot of areas. So that's all BS. So at what point, will it, eventually completely fall back on them? Because there's
Everybody's watching mainstream media now, and everybody's getting indoctrinated and brainwashed, and they're all supporting the Biden administration. This is why we have to pay attention when these issues break out around the world, that we don't buy into the narrative, because it's always something different than what it appears.
Yeah, and that's the way it's going to continue until enough of us start to push back on it and change it. Because there's people on the inside that can like disclose, like we're talking about, but they're surrounded by vampires, which will like, blood suck them and disappear them, and all
I
kind of
think we'll
crazy
see
stuff.
more though. I think you nailed it though. One does it and then another one does it, and they get a little bit more. And I understand from what your point of view is. That doesn't alleviate my frustration,
Sure. Yeah.
but I'm a balls to the wall type of guy anyway. So I can't, like my wife says, you can't expect everybody to do what you do. And I get it. But the
But
reality
give
is,
them the option. Give them the
yes.
option, and they'll probably take it as long as they know they're covered. They're not going to lose their job. They're not going to have their community, go against them, or their whatever. So it can make obviously makes a difference.
Yeah, well, where we can make a difference, I think you nailed it, is the more information we constantly put out on every platform we can,
Mm-hmm.
it gives them the courage and the cover to be a
Right.
whistleblower and to come out, because it's already there. It's in the mainstream, so they're not going to be considered a wacko or a conspiracy theorist. They're going to, like, it's already in the mainstream. And by the way, when I say mainstream now, I'm not talking about the MSM. I'm talking about the alternate media is the mainstream right now. Twitter, True Social, Rumble, that's the mainstream, because they're getting all the action, which is beautiful. That
Yeah.
says we're winning.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because there's the reality they have created and the reality that we're creating. We have that. There's a system of commerce and so forth that we're involved in, that they can't manipulate us in anymore. So, and we don't support, if there's a woke group, a woke anything, we stop supporting them. We call it out. We stop supporting it. It collapses them, or they get in line, and then that's the way the world is being shaped now. So they don't have the control that they used to. But yes, they still do, to a certain extent, and it has to be, and we have to continue the process.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's interesting. I have a treat for you if you want to play it. It's a 3-minute video, and you were mentioning that pretty much what I say is you have to speak to somebody where they're at, not where you want them to be, to kind of acclimate them. Find something that they go, wow, if they did that, maybe they did something else, right? So I created a 3-minute video about the fake New Year that really dives into that. So people, it's undisputable. It's
Mm.
undisputed. In fact, Juan was on my show and he's like, well, Lewis, this is a distraction. We don't really want to talk about this. I go, that's not. So we kind of got into it over that. But the reality is, he tried to classify it a certain way until I brought up 4 points. I didn't show him the video, but we were talking. Then I brought up 4 points, which I have in the video. And then immediately he's like, well, yeah, clearly they did something there. It's just so obvious that we are right now in a fake New Year. We're not even close to where the New Year's is supposed to be right now.
Wow. So you have a clip you're going to play
Sure,
it?
it's 3 minutes if you want me
Yeah.
to play it.
Yeah, let's
Okay,
play it. We'll
let me
play it and we'll talk about it. That's
let
great.
me tee it up here. Hold on a second.
So you put this together yourself?
I did.
You've done some really good videos in the past.
I appreciate it. This was a quick one because I just had an inspiration. Now I'm looking for the Zoom so I can share. There it is. Cool. I'm going to have to move your screen over here for a second, and now I could share this. Share with sound. Here we go. All right. Can you see it there?
Yep. New Year's a fake. That's outstanding. I'm glad you did that, because I've known that for many years, and I've never seen it put together so quickly and so perfectly. I was like, there's no way I'll ever be able to explain that. I did the research on it. It took me years and years, but you just put it together so perfectly. Good job.
Well, it's because I had the TikTok mentality. I woke up and I go, how the hell am I going to get this information out under 3 minutes? Literally, that's
That's
what I
good.
said.
That's good. That's the
Because
mentality of most people these days. Yeah,
and
good.
now it's viral on TikTok and on Twitter, and it's viral on Facebook. It's going all over the place.
Nice.
Everybody's sharing it. And
I'll
it's
have to share it.
hilarious.
Yeah, good. Good.
But if you know our microwave mentality, if I would have made that 10 minutes, nobody would watch it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and there's so many things like that because that throws everything off whack. Now, I've heard that the deep state has their own calendar
Mhm.
and they do things off their calendar. What have you heard about that?
Exactly the same thing. I've heard the exact same thing. And it makes sense too if you think about it. Um, Although what's interesting, I don't know if you're familiar with David Avocado Wolf.
Yeah.
He added on to my video. He showed, I guess he showed my video on his show or Telegram, I'm not quite sure, but he added on to it a really good point. He said based on all of his studies that our January 1st is when Sirius, the dog star, is at the highest point.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And therefore, when we're celebrating, they're using, I'm assuming that the bad guys are using our energy of celebration as if we're celebrating their God.
Right. Yep.
Crazy. It's just crazy. Matt, I wish I would have known that before I made the video, because that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of information on that dog star stuff too. Like how they came here and the Dogon tribe, has a lot of information on the Dogon the people that came from Sirius and basically gave them all kinds of information. Of course, the Dogon tribe has African tribe that has all this information on that star system that there's no way they could have had. It was like maybe 60, 70 years ago. They saw one of the star systems and the way it went around Sirius B or Sirius C, whatever. They got several different stars that run around there, but there's no way that they could have known that unless someone had given them that information because we didn't have telescopes and stuff like that. So, it gives credence to, that we've been visited and that there are other beings that have come here that have settled here that are kind of maybe running the show in the background.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's fascinating, actually.
Yeah, and if you get out of line, which I did one time, and talk about some of this stuff, they do not mess around with the the alien stuff. Yeah, now we're starting to see a preponderance of people starting to reveal that stuff, so they're getting overwhelmed with it now. So that's what's happening in that group as well. So that's another fascinating thing. So we're revealing more and more, and their control system is shutting down, breaking down, and they're finding great difficulty in making money like they used to, because money they have to have the money, Babylonian money magic money to basically control us, and that system, like we were talking about just earlier, is starting to collapse on them, and we're creating
Absolutely.
another system, away from them.
It's funny that you'd say that because I'm actually, my next film is called Breaking Babylon.
Oh
And
wow,
and
good.
it talks about a little bit about what you said
Mm,
inside of it.
nice. Yeah, I look forward to it. So yeah, it's quite a show that's going on. Juan talks about that all the time, but we can control the show. That's the beauty of the movie because we can stop it and then we can run it ourselves and run it on a different timeline,
Mhm.
run it on a different program, and we're learning how to do that, and we're starting to do that.
Yeah, we can control a lot more than we think we can control by far.
Mhm.
I believe we're virtually limitless, and the only thing that limit us is our left brain because it shuts off our imagination of what we can accomplish. You proved that when you were just the fact when you were teaching me remote viewing, right? And it's amazing when you learn that skill set, you're like, whoa, it opens up a whole new rim. I mean,
Mhm.
I feel like virtually every day I'm love bubbling a bunch of people too, by the way. So,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and once you experience that is a real thing, and then you understand the frequencies and so forth, and then you understand your brainwave patterns, then you're really starting to make a difference, and change the world. So, there's a lot, still a lot of control systems that are out there. We know that you and I and many others that watch us, but we need to reach more. That the Vatican is basically a Luciferian, control system. They've captured Christianity. They use that as a control system for the masses, just like they do with um, uh, Judaism and the basically all the Abrahamic religions. So
mhm.
Hindus, not so much, maybe. I don't know. Buddhist, they're a different carrier, but of course we see uh, the the Dalai Lama, like, there's some problems there, obviously, too.
Yeah, I think Dalai Lama was CIA actually.
Oh, do you? Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard
I
people
do.
say that.
I
Interesting.
do.
Wow. Maybe that's why the Chinese came down so hard on them.
Yeah, could be, huh? That makes sense. Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. So what else you got going on?
Well, I do the news daily. I'm working a lot on rememberyouroath.com, where we're actually putting together a systems, which is pretty cool, where we hold the sheriffs and civil servants accountable, like directly accountable in mass, and not just sending them letters. Like we'll send them a letter, and then we're literally gonna be showing up at their offices and go, okay, here, what are you doing? Creating a scorecard for the sheriffs, so we know who's good, who's bad, who's doing what. And in addition to that, finally, the Patriot app that I probably mentioned to you about a year ago is right around the corner. Making a few more tweaks. My wife says stop giving dates. She's right about that. So, but it'll be out. It'll be out shortly. And that's really cool because that connects patriots all around the world in their areas where they can actually take action on a school board or take action on a board of supervisors. And that's all we really need to do. And it's funny because people we always look at this big, huge presidential picture, and that's really not what it's about at all. That's going to take care of itself. We can take care of our communities, and ultimately the micro will fix the macro. And based on the people I talk to and all over, in fact, we have a beautiful team in Arizona fighting so hard and making so much progress. Today on the news, we have actual uh, paper proof. This is their
Mhm.
funding mechanism that
Yeah.
they have for these deep state actors, and they get paid in real estate, by the way.
Yeah.
They give
Ver-
they give them a loan,
That's
six
it.
hundred thousand dollars.
Wow.
Somebody else pays for the loan.
Yep. You
You know,
got it.
so this is what the happens in Arizona. It was a bonus that Kerry Lake didn't get in. It was a bonus that it was called first against Trump, right? Because the reality is it's all about protecting that mechanism. And it's disgusting. We're so deep in it. It's so bad. So I went to the Board of Supervisors final meeting in Maricopa County last month, and I got kicked out, because I'm calling them out. They're just doing. I had a speech that kind of went viral. That was all cool. That wasn't the intention. I only went down there to support the team of people that are working so hard. I didn't intend to speak. But anyways, I ended up speaking. And then after that, I was watching some manipulation that was going on with Clint Hickman, and he's the one controlling the board of supervisors. And I just had to yell it out. I'm just calling it out. Everybody needs to know. And of course, they escorted me out. But very interesting enough, though, those aren't sheriffs there. Those are county security. And they do that for a reason because the sheriffs can hold the board of supervisors accountable.
Right. Hmm.
County security cannot because they work for the board of supervisors. Isn't that interesting? And they try to put their hands on me. And I said, you're not going to want to do that. I'm telling you right now, you need not to do that, or it's not going to work out well for you. And then the guy, he backed off. He goes, okay, just leave, please just leave. And then I left. But it's a dirty place, man.
Wow.
You
Hmm.
just you feel like you have to be cleansed after dealing with these people. It's just disgusting. Oh, by the way, 4 out of 5 are Republican. So let's stop that Republican Democrat.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very good. Thank you. Yep. The corruption is throughout the whole system.
Yeah.
We want to believe that, Republicans are going to change things, but no. There's just they're bought out, they're corrupt as well.
It's one party. That's it.
Uniparty. Yep.
That's it.
Absolutely. And they'll make one party look good and cool,
Mhm.
and it's almost throughout the whole system. There's very, very few people that are actually good. Like we
Yeah,
talked about. You can't hang out with vampires and survive. You know, they'll
that's right.
they'll blood suck you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what they do to anyone that's good that comes in. Now, if you come in and you can work around the system and expose it in subtle ways, like I used to do, and I think both of us still do that. There is a certain level we know you can't do too much because
There's
it
some
will
things
get dangerous.
you
Yeah.
can't cross. That's right.
Yeah. And they know that as well. So they'll there's good people that'll work around the system. It doesn't have to be that way if we have enough people that are involved and understand what's going on instead of continually saying, "Oh, the Republicans are all good." No, they're not, like we just said. Or, I've been a Democrat for all my life and I'm not going to be, I don't care who's running, I'm going to support them. Come on. You gotta, that's not
Yeah.
what our country is about. It's not what, um, it's like, there's a deficit of common sense in some people.
Mhm.
It's like, what has happened to you? How did it happen? We know the education system and so forth, but uh, it, it- we're not going to move forward, but I know we are. We're not going to move forward as quickly as we like because there's so many people out there that are consciously compromised.
Yeah, it's so true. It's
Mm.
it's at the height of disgusting that it could possibly be, and it is permeated through everything. And this is what I'm trying to teach people now is the elections are won and lost in the primary and the pre-primary. They're not won in the general election where everybody gets excited about, because usually you will have two people running against each other. You'll have a Democrat and you'll have a deep state rhino. That's who's running against each other. So for the deep state, it's a win. Either way, it's a win. So they put all their money and all their time and all their focus where? They don't put it in general election. They put it into manipulating the primaries. So anybody that's good, that's coming up and coming, they'll find a way to squash them by diluting their votes, which they often do. They'll put 3 other people in the same party against them. That'll dilute their votes, and then they'll get their rhino in there. So the
Mm.
games that are played are way before the general election, but that's that Freemason look. Whatever the left hand is, you should probably be looking at the right hand.
Yeah. Now I've had a couple times now. I've had Mike Gill on.
Mm-hmm.
He's been. I feel that he's disclosing on an exceptional level.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's been involved in this a lot longer than any of us. Maybe there's maybe Juan has been involved in this longer. I don't know, but he's been like 20 years, 10, 20 years or whatever,
Yep.
exposing. So I think he's he knows a few things. And of course, he used to be exceptionally rich, so he knows that aspect of it. And he was involved with all the people that are rich, the government, and
Mm-hmm.
people that are manipulating things. So he has some really good insights. So he's called out a lot of this stuff. He's called out a lot of people, and he gets blowback on it, even from the truther community, unfortunately. But
Right. So I've known Mike. I've interviewed Mike two times. In fact, I featured him in my film Cages.
nice.
And in fact, he texted me last week saying, "Hey, I'm busy. I'm going to call you next week." But here's what I believe about Mike. Mike has a lot of great information. He's got the Pandora Papers. He's done some phenomenal work. He's lost everything, and he's been on the run for years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's given the information to Flynn and given it to Trump. So now he finally realized that, okay, Flynn's just a bad guy. So his concern is he hears there's negotiations with Trump with the deep state. Okay, well, if anybody understands the art of war, Trump would have to be in negotiations with them anyways. So that's why I'm not too concerned about that. But Mike's getting frustrated with everybody else now. I believe that's just because the pressure is boiling in him. And one thing I do believe about Mike when it comes to adrenochrome, the satanic, well, he's getting more on the satanic thing, but he was not fully awake on all that other stuff when
Sure.
I spoke with him. So I believe he doesn't understand that there probably is a plan of some sort going on, and everything goes in certain stages. From his point of view, I think he's lashing out just because he's just so
Yeah.
frustrated right
Yeah.
now. And I kind of believe we're going to find out. Let's just say it's the Juan Mike Gill thing. We'll probably find out they're both good guys, right? But
Of course. Yeah.
Mike was frustrated with Juan and so on and so forth, and he's just lashing out. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. I agree. And yeah, he felt like the truther community for a period of time, at least that's what he says, basically dissed him and pushed him away. Um,
Wow,
that
that's
that
too
yeah,
bad.
that wasn't it at all. You know, I was like,
He could
when
have
I
called
saw that, I'm
me
like,
anytime,
come
yeah,
back
and I
on,
would,
come back
yeah,
on.
exactly.
Let's talk some more.
He could have called me anytime.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, he's been on Michelle Moore show. Have you ever done a show with Michelle Moore?
No, no, no. The only I found out about Michelle Moore because of the Mike Gill interview,
She
actually.
is a excellent interviewer. She interviewed me one time. It's like, wow. I was like, that you are the best interviewer. So I mean, you can see that with her doing Mike Gill. And so again, you know, reveals come from mysterious and unusual places. Michelle
Mhm.
Moore, you know,
Yeah.
she did her shows were like, you know, kind of out there in another realm, and then she started coming into this realm and started revealing in here, and she's done a really good job. So you never know who's going to come in and start revealing, and that's what a lot of us try and get people to do. Everyone can have an impact in a certain way. You don't have to be like have a show like we do necessarily, but you can disclose, you can talk to people, you
Hmm.
know, you can like push the envelope like I'm talking about. You might be in a room full of vampires, but the people that aren't vampires are going to get vampired. Maybe you can leave them a little hint, you know. Just
Yeah.
kind of playing around with the idea, but I think a lot of people just don't want to get involved, and that's hurting us from moving forward, I think.
Yeah. That's it's they I mean they could just throw out, I always tell people just throw out a little tidbit sometimes and just see
Yeah.
what the reaction is. Like it's crazy with 9/11 that two planes hit two towers, but three buildings fell. And in the history of the world, there's never been a steel building that fell because of fire. It's just odd. It's little,
That's how I started
yep, just throw it out like that. You just throw it
doing that
out.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
It's amazing. You can do that with the calendar thing. You go explain the difference between October and December, those 4 months real quick, and people are gonna go, well, that's odd. Yeah, that that opens them up. That opens that door.
Right. Yeah. Find something that's going to get them, involved. And a lot of people say, because, my background, that, they can use that. It's like, listen, this guy is Navy SEAL, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
And then someone's going to say, oh, it was CIA. I don't trust CIA. And
I
they're
know.
like, oh, yeah, yeah.
One
So it's like,
CIA,
ah, really?
every
Once the
CIA.
CIA, I
Yeah,
know, once CIA, always a CIA, you know, yeah.
right.
Once a good CIA guy, always a good CIA guy. Once revealing on the CIA, which I do all the time, uh, it's like some people just want an excuse not to get involved and believe
Right, of
that, and
course.
that's what I'm talking about. The excuse is, and we've talked about it. There's no excuse for anyone that's not within a system where you could be vampired, you
Hmm.
know, uh, crucified or whatever. So, go ahead and reveal. A little tidbit here and there is not going to hurt. I mean, maybe you get a little back flash or whatever. I don't know, splash, but
Yep.
it makes a difference over time.
It does. It does. And everybody can make a difference. It's that ripple in the pond effect.
Hmm.
And it does work. I was just telling somebody yesterday, actually I did on my show yesterday. I said, you know what? Or was it yesterday? 2 days ago? Who knows anymore? Anyways, I said, let's say you as a person go out and talk to 10 strangers and just try to wake 10 strangers up, whatever your process is.
Hmm.
9 of them think you're crazy. One of them tells somebody who tells somebody, they get active. And don't underestimate the effects that we have. You may not see the fruits of your labor, but they were there. Just plant those seeds everywhere. And we have to have courage, though. We cannot be afraid to start talking to people about this stuff.
That's what's going to make the difference, because someone speaking out allows someone else to speak out. You never know who that someone else might be. They might have more, they might have an audience that you don't have, or,
Yeah.
that you might have, and, impact somebody who's like, well, they're talking about that. How many other people are talking about it? I've been wanting to reveal this for a long time, and I'm going to do it on my own and get hammered. So that is the thing going forward. I think that more and more people get involved and start talking about it, start sharing this information, continue to watch it. I mean, it's easy to share on Facebook, Twitter. You can go on Twitter and share stuff, it's super easy.
Yep. I agree.
Makes a difference. Okay, brother. Any last words or?
No, if anybody wants to find me, just go to screwbiggov.com and all links and everything I do, all the films are right there, screwbiggov.com.
Screwbiggov.com. And you got, for Rumble and all that other stuff, and good.
And I've got, and you need to go there because I just found out that I've got duplicate accounts everywhere. I just found there's somebody impersonating me on Twitter, on Telegram, on Rumble. There's a couple. There's 2 accounts on YouTube that are monetized right now that are stealing my information. So just go to screwbiggov.com, click on those links, and it'll get you to the real Louis Herms and Screwbiggov.
Nice. Yeah, we're and that's another thing, we're all being affected by that. People trying to steal their information and benefit from it, and it kind of it screws us up because it brings negativity to us, because people are getting taken advantage of and they think it's us, and it's not.
Yeah. 2 people just reported to me yesterday that somebody scammed them out of money pretending it was me. It's sad.
Yeah, it happens unfortunately a lot. So we constantly try and tell people, hopefully people listen to this and, use really good judgment going forward.
Yeah.
I have so many different accounts out there. It's insane. And then even in my own account, people come and drop, contact me. It's like, got my picture and everything. It's like,
Mhm.
all right, brother.
Hey, Mike, I think you're scheduled on my show next week, actually.
Am I? Okay, cool.
I think so. So that'll be awesome. So
Yeah, very good.
We'll
All
see you
right.
over there soon.
Absolutely. Sounds great. All right. Yeah, it's good to hook up with you again. And, good luck out there doing whatever you're doing. You're
Thank you,
sharing
Larry.
some really awesome stuff as usual.
Well,
I love that thing about the calendar. That was brilliant.
yeah, thank you. We need to tell Tracy Joe hi for me. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you guys next time. Cheers.